Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial. Before we get started, I want to let you know that you can find all the code example and resources we'll be using today in the GitHub Repository linked in the video description below. This repository serves as a valuable companion to the tutorial, allowing you to follow along, experiment, and explore the code on your own time. Hello guys and welcome back. In this chapter, we will discover the world of NextAuth Callbacks. Callbacks actually are like the secret sauce for the authentication recipe. They empower us to customize and extend the authentication process, giving us like a really good control over user flows and experiences. We will cover everything from the basics of callback to advanced technique for handling various authentication scenarios. By the end of this chapter, you will be equipped with the knowledge to supercharge your authentication workflows. So when working with NextAuth, actually the callbacks provide really powerful hooks into various stages to authentication process and enabling you to customize and extend the logics as needed. So let's discover the callbacks by coding and test on our app. I already opened our repository in GitHub. In our NextAuth tutorials, let's integrate the first callback. Actually, the NextAuth documentation is really complete and you can find a lot of details on the callbacks page. You can find here at this address in NextAuth configuration callbacks, and here we'll explain every single callback and all the dynamics about the callback. So the first callback that we are going to explore is the sign in. Okay, we have to declare the callback here on the NextAuth option outside providers. Don't declare here. Sometimes people can make this mistake to declare the callbacks here. It won't work. So you have to declare outside at the first level of the NextAuth options. We add the function that is sign in. This is our function that is going to be invoked every time the user start the authentication process in the sign-in page, and we will see practically when it's triggered. Inside the parameters, we are going to extract what we need for our interaction. We can extract many objects. In this case, we just need user because we are in the credential provider, but with other providers, you could be interested also in the account object, and also we have the profile, the email, and the credentials. We want to see the user object and we want to interact with the user object. We can integrate some logic here. For example, we check the user. If it's a special user that have a special attribute, we can decide to sign in. If not, if it doesn't have a special requirement, we refuse the authentication. And how we can approve or refuse the authentication, just returning true. If I return true from this function, the sign-in process will be okay. If we return false, we will not authenticate the user. Let's try with the true. I want to see the user object on the backend. Actually is in the server side, so we will see on the terminal the user. And from the front end, I will see that it allows me to get inside the protected route. So let's start our application with run dev. Here we go. We wait here. Let's see. So I sign in. Click on sign in. I put random, and here we go. NextAuth invoke this function and show me the user here that actually we return from this authorized function, because we remember in the previous chapters we always authorize and give back this kind of user for any input in the sign-in, because actually we are not checking with the database the user is real or not. I always approve function, and here we return true, so actually it allows me to sign in. But if I put false here, we will see that first we log out, we save, we start again, we try to sign in, we put random, and let's see what happened. Access denied. So the false will block the user to authenticate. In this part, we can integrate any logic to approve or not. let's go on and see other callbacks function. Or if we want, maybe we want to see also the credential. We go back to our local host. We sign in, and we see also the credential. So the credential is actually input that we put in the form, and we see the username, the password, and the CSRF token. This function is really useful to interact with the sign in and decide what to do with the particular users and how to implement some logics with the authentication process. Let's include another callbacks that is a redirect. Actually, the redirect callback is called anytime the user is redirected to a callback URL, and for example, sign in or sign out. Actually, by default, only URL with the same domain will be approved. So this is like a security check. So you can use the redirect callback to customize actually this behavior. From the documentation, we can see that the default behavior is like that. This is the default behavior. We can change it if we need a different approach, if we need a different security check. But actually, what it's doing is if the URL, the redirect path that we are checking starts with /, we return the base URL plus the URL. So in this way, we are always sure that it's our domain, it's our base URL. Else, if the URL, the origin, is the same of base URL, we don't need to recreate this and we return directly the URL because we are sure that the origin is the same. And if this doesn't match, we're going to return our root at our origin. Let's see another callback. Okay, this is the most important part of our NextAuth tutorial, and actually is the key of the authentication process. And I'm talking about the JWT, or the JSON Web Token. So we are going to see the JWT callback. We will see with the next chapter how to modify the JWT, how to insert new values, how the JWT is signed, and more stuff on the next chapter. Now we just want to see on the terminal the JWT. So the function is quite easy. It's that the async JWT. From the JWT function, we can extract the token. We can extract with other credential. We can have also the account and the profile. But in this case, with the credential, we just need the token. So we return the token. It's really important. If not, process will not continue. We return the token. In this part, we can play with the token. We can interact with the token, add some code, some logic, some check. We can connect to an external database to modify the JWT, integrate with other values that we need for that specific user. And with this new data, we can also use on the client side to interact with the page. For example, we have an application with different account levels. So we have a basic user, a premium user. For the premium user, we want to show them more content than the basic one, or they are allowed to reach more protected routes. So in the token, we can, for example, we can get the user in this part. We check for example, a database that give us, we can make an API call to check if that user is premium or is a basic or is another level. And after this, we will add to the token a new field that contains the value of the account level of that specific user. So let's just check how is the token. It's here. And actually this callback is called anytime the application create a JSON Web Token. So every time the JWT is created, it will trigger this function. For example, at sign-in time, or when we update the JWT, we will see later how to update from the client side, because we can update both on the client and server side. And the returner value anyway will be encrypted and stored in a cookies. This returning value will be encrypted with our secret we specify in the options right here. Remove here in this part. This will be encrypted with this one. Let's create the JWT so we can see here on the terminal. Here we go. This is our JWT token. It's the name, it's the email, it's the user. Data is the time when we create the JWT token. This is the expiration time in milliseconds. And this is the unique ID of the JWT token. But the content of this one we see in plain text on the server, but will be encrypted on the client side and stored as a cookie values that is called HS token that we will see. We can see also right now here, if we console log the client side, we can see on the cookies, if we go to application, we can see that this session token actually is that data encrypted for the client side. We will discover in the next chapter how is encrypted and how to decrypt this part. So the next callback that we are going to explore is the session callback. And actually it's called whenever a session is checked. By default, only subset of token is returned for increased security. We don't see everything in the session callback. If we need more data, we have to use the JWT like we just see right now. This is the function. So the data that we retrieve from this function is a session, is token. We also retrieve the token from the session, so it's really useful. And the session, the token, and the user. So we have these three objects. We return the session is important. So if we modify the session here, we are sending back to the client the new updated session. We want to see how is the session composed here. It's a token and its user. We return the session. Let's remove this one so we don't need to print on the. Here we go. So let's update. Let's clear everything. Let's run the application again. So we go in our root page, we sign in, we put some random email and sign in. And here we go. So we get all this data here. So the first data that we get is the session. Actually, the session is the same that we see on the client side. So we get the same data from the callback function. We see the token as the same way we saw in the JWT. And the user is undefined. The user is defined when you are use a database session. So the user object is passed as an argument, but not in this case. So if we do use the database strategy, we don't need to check the user. Another important information that when you are using JWT, the JWT callback is always invoked before the session callback. So anything you add to the JSON Web Token will be immediately available on the session callback. Let's try, for example, I want to add something here. Let's see if the token change. We sign out. We just go again. We sign in. Here we go. So we modify the token, and with the session, we get the updated token here with some data. Remember that the session object is not persisted server side. It means when even you are using database session, only data such the session tokens, the user is stored in the session table. So that's all for this session. Thanks for joining in, and I hope that you found this tutorial helpful. Don't miss the next chapter that we are going to explore how to interact with the session and JWT object through the callbacks functions. We have reached the end of this video tutorial, and I genuinely hope you have enjoyed its content. If it has been helpful to you, please show your support by liking the video and sharing it with your friends on social media. If you haven't already, I warmly invite you to subscribe to my channel to stay updated on upcoming lessons. Don't forget to check out my website, devergolabs.com, where you will find a plethora of interesting programming content. You can also send me collaboration requests and explore all the programming services we offer. Your participation and support are crucial in my growing and to grow this community and providing you with even more valuable resources. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with us, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video tutorial.